Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be showing you my best balletcore shades. So in case you missed it, a couple of weeks ago I started a new series on my channel where I curate a bunch of my favorite polishes in my collection to fit certain aesthetics. The first video was focused on fairycore, which is definitely one of my favorites, and I'm so glad that so many of you enjoyed that one. But a more recent aesthetic you may have heard of is called balletcore, which is obviously focused on ballet. It's generally very light and airy with soft colors, usually pastels, that all invoke the sense of elegance and femininity. And hearing all of that, I immediately think of sheer, milky kind of shades, a few pastels for pops of color, but also some specialty finish toppers to add a little bit of texture as well. So as always, I will save some more of my thoughts for the end. For now, let me show you my best balletcore shades. So starting with the sheers, this first one is none other than Cirque Colors Chiffon. This is easily one of my absolute favorite sheer pinks in my collection. It's described as a sheer warm toned pink, which might be kind of hard to tell, but it is a little bit on the peachy side, especially compared to some other pinks I'll be sharing. But I personally find this one so flattering. I love wearing it in one or sometimes in two coats if I want a little bit more coverage or if my nails are a little bit more stained than usual. Either way, I find that the shade just brightens up my nails so much while still looking very natural, so I just really love that about this one. Next up we have Cirque Colors Odette, and this came out in the Encore collection somewhat recently. You are going to be seeing a few other shades as well, but this one is described as a cool toned sheer pink, and you can immediately tell it's not as peachy as the last one. There's almost a kiss of lavender in this shade, which I really like because I think on one coat alone it just brightens up your nails but also balances out any kind of yellowing that you might have. At least that's how I feel when I wear this. But on two coats it does build up to have a little bit more of that milky color that I feel like is so elegant, so classy. Next I have Cirque Colors Linen, which is the sheer white, and this one I thought was so fitting just because I think milky white nails are just so classy. It might not look like much, especially on the first coat, and admittedly my nails are a little bit yellow, so that is kind of coming through, but I do love how this builds up in two coats. It's another super refreshing, very elegant kind of color. I feel like white nails don't get enough love, and especially milky whites. They kind of have a bad reputation, but they can look amazing. I also love how versatile linen is because you can wear it in one or two coats for a subtle wash of color or build it up in three for a little bit more coverage. And the last Cirque jelly that I have is Lavender Sky. This one is described as a sheer pastel lilac that has a little bit more of a milky kind of formula as well. It's not as sheer and translucent as some of the other shades, though you can obviously wear it in one coat for the most sheer effect. I really love this one because the lilac purpley kind of color just really neutralizes any staining. So again, it's another shade that really brightens up your nails, but you can also layer this up in two or three coats depending on how much coverage you want. Either way, the lilac color already starts to come through even on the second coat alone, and I just find it to be so playful and so feminine. Next, I have a few sheers from Dimension Nails. This first one is called Strawberry Soy Milk, which I shared as part of my spring favorites video. This one is described as a light pink milky jelly, and I just absolutely adore this one. I know it might be hard to tell the differences between the previous pink sheers that I shared and the upcoming ones, but I will have a collage towards the end, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, there's just something so satisfying about this shade of pink. I just find it so beautiful, so elegant, and the formula on these are just so incredible, especially with the wide paddle brush. And the other one that I have is Blueberry Flax Milk, which is described as a milky sky blue sheer. Now I know blueberry milk nails are so last year or whatever, but if you still like the look of light blue nails with a milky finish, this is the polish for that. It literally has blueberry milk in the name. Now I will say it is not the most flattering on one coat. I think this one could definitely benefit from a blurring base coat, especially if your nails are a little bit on the stain side like mine are, but it does build up really beautifully in 3 coats where you see more coverage and more of that brighter sky blue color. It is just so pretty. And lastly, I have a couple of sheers from Ave Polish. This first one I didn't realize was discontinued, but it is called Rose Quartz, and it's described as a sheer cool toned pink with a subtle blue flash. As far as the sheer pink base color goes, I think I would say that this one is most similar to Cirque's Odette, where it's a very white based kind of pink that almost has a little kiss of purple to it. The obvious difference is that this one has that blue shimmer, but it is incredibly subtle. You might be able to see some little flashes of it here and there, but it shows up a little bit more in the sunlight, which I thought was just such a beautiful detail. But the other one that is still available is Crystal, and this one is described as a warm-toned peachy sheer. You can probably tell that straight from the bottle how peachy this is. It's a lot less pink leaning compared to the other sheers that I shared. And initially I didn't love this for that reason, because I feel like the peachy color sort of emphasized the staining that I had. So if your nails are more stained than mine are, this shade might not flatter you so much, but if they aren't, then I think this one is just such a beautiful neutral. It looks so nice, especially built up in 2 coats. Now getting into some creams, the first one that I have is Ave Peony, which is described as a pale pink peachy cream. I feel like from the bottle shot it looked to be a little bit more peachy than it actually is, but this one is such a beautiful warm pink shade. This one is one of my favorite Ave polishes. I mean, it has an amazing formula for such a light shade, but even still, there's something about this color that I just find so beautiful, so flattering and feminine and dainty. It's one of those classic light pinks, but I feel like the warmth really elevates it. But if you want a flirty romantic pink, I would go for ILNP's Twirl. This one came out in the Love Struck collection for Valentine's Day, and this enchanting soft ballet slipper pink is reminiscent of the delicate dance between 2 hearts. I absolutely love that description. I love this color, this formula. This is just such a beautiful shade of pink that I honestly can't recommend enough. Like, if you love pink and if you don't already have a good pastel pink in your collection, this one is so cute. And the last cream that I have is ILNP's Butterflies, which is from the same Love Struck collection. This is a delicate, creamy, pale purple that I just think is so beautiful. There's something so sweet and innocent, but still also playful about a purple pastel like this one. And this one is easily a new favorite. If you saw my initial review, I just fell in love with this shade. It's a beautiful color with a fantastic formula, and again, I just cannot recommend it enough. The shade really gives me butterflies. And lastly, I have a couple of toppers. This first one is Cirque Colors Coquette, which is from the Encore collection. It's described as a multicolored shimmer graphic nail topper with rainbow shifting aurora shimmer and an intense scattered hollow that's reminiscent of the candy colored corsets, twinkling tutus, and satin bow ballet slippers. I just love that for being a very sparkly polish, it's still very elegant and classy. I think the shimmer is just so delicate and whimsical, especially if you do use it as a topper, which is what I'm doing here, layering it in 1 coat over some of the sheers and creams. I think it is just so pretty. My personal favorites are layering this over the more purple shades, so Lavender Sky, which was the lilac pastel sheer, and then Butterflies, this purple cream. I think the shimmer just really complements it well, but it does look really pretty over the pinks too. And the last topper that I have might be a controversial one. This is Cirque Colors Sylph, which is described as a sheer white pearl nail polish with ultra smooth pearlescent shimmer. Now look, I know pearl polishes are very divisive. Generally, I don't like them, but for the theme, I feel like this polish is just so perfect. I don't really love it on its own, which I think is how I first tried it, but layered over a sheer white like linen, or even over one of the sheer pinks, or layered in between a milky pink, I feel like just makes it so much more wearable, where it's like a kiss of a pearlescent look that I think is so enchanting, again, for the theme. I'm not trying to make pearl nails a thing, but if you want pearlescent nails, I think Sylph is a great polish for that. And finally, for the collages, I decided to do something a little bit different by doing these almost full hand swatches, where I'm wearing one coat each in this first collage, except for Blueberry Milk. That one has 2 coats. I know the pinks might kind of blend in with each other a little bit, but there are some subtle differences there. It does become a lot more noticeable once you do the second coat though, because the color starts to build up a little bit more. The coverage or opacity also increases in some of the shades like Cirque's Chiffon or Ave Crystal, where they almost have a milkier kind of look to them, and so it blurs the nail line a little bit more than the others, but hopefully you can still see the differences in the undertones of the shades, where they're definitely similar but not the same. So that wraps up my best balletcore nail polishes. As always, I would love to know what your thoughts are on my picks or on this aesthetic in general, because I know when it comes to nail polish, a lot of people generally find sheers, pinks, pastels to be very boring, but I personally really love them, and hopefully you can appreciate how a good milky sheer just adds so much elegance to a manicure. I feel like it just is so refreshing, and it's definitely a classic that I love to go back to when I don't know what to wear. And hopefully you like the few pops of color that I included as well. Generally, I don't think you can go wrong with any kind of pastels, but I feel like when it comes to ballet, they usually are leaning in like the pinks, the whites, purples, and maybe a little bit of blue. And honestly, I feel like a lot of these colors could also fall under the Coquette aesthetic, which really focuses on femininity. It really has this like flirty kind of girly vibe. But when I think of Coquette nails, they usually have some form of like nail art or charms. You see a lot of bows, ribbons, sometimes even pearls included in that look. And so I think maybe a lot of the colors here can work as a base for a Coquette mani. And then you can add a little bow charm or nail art sticker or something just to add that element. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave me a like if you did. If there's any other aesthetics that you'd want to see, make sure to leave them in a comment down below. I already got a ton of amazing suggestions, and I'm thinking of doing cottagecore in the next couple of weeks. And like I already hinted in my first video too, I immediately thought of doing mermaid core for the beginning of summer. But if there are any other ones that you'd want to see, or if there are any thoughts that you have, just leave them down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!